Hello lovely people and welcome back to my channel. The day has come that we're going to be doing Project 5 wears with my favorite Juvia's Place palette to date, which is the Saharan 2 palette. If you don't know how she looks like, this is how she looks like. Not only am I doing a Project 5 wears with my favorite Juvia's Place palette, but I'm also going to do this in collaboration with one of my favorite people to follow on YouTube, the lovely lady Melissa Gold. I sincerely doubt you don't know who Melissa is, but if you don't, please head over to her channel, consider subscribing to it because she's absolutely amazing. She's beautiful, she's gorgeous, she's an incredibly nice person, she has the most calming, soothing voice. Her videos are always such a pleasure to watch. Something I find very interesting and very intriguing about Melissa's makeup style is she can go very neutral, very conservative, very like held back with her makeup style, and at the same time she can do super like crazy editorial artistic looks, and she just looks beautiful in everything. I kind of like stick to my lane. I think my lane is wearable, colorful, you know, everyday sort of looks. Like they're colorful but they're not over the top so that you can go out the street with them. At least that's how I feel about my makeup style. So I kind of like swim in my own little river and I hardly ever like go and visit other places. But Melissa has this unique style where she does both and she looks absolutely stunning wearing both. I don't know how she does that. At the end of last year I ranked all of the eyeshadow palettes that I had bought, and the Saharan 2 palette shared the first place together with the Sublime palette from Pat McGrath, and I think she found that very fascinating because she owns this palette but she hadn't really used it in a while, and I think she couldn't really recall why this palette is so special. So we decided to do the Project 5 wears with it so that she can pull this palette out, play with it a little bit, and fingers crossed that she enjoyed playing with it, because I would find it really heartbreaking if she didn't. So if you would like to find out what looks I created with it, then please keep on watching, and afterwards don't forget to head over to Melissa's channel and see the 5 looks that she created for you. So guys, I'm gonna kick this Project 5 wears off with a very neutral look because I feel like it's so important to show you that the neutrals in this palette are absolutely spectacular before we even dip into the pops of color, because the pops of color are gorgeous. They are really what everyone's going to be attracted to when they look to this palette, but I'm here to tell you the neutrals, the warm neutrals here are. So today's going to be a somewhat wonderful, almost summer day, and I wanted to do something very fresh, very warm, very summery, and still a little bit more subdued. To start off the look, I went into this sort of like burnt darkish orange, and I blended that in my crease and a bit above my crease. Then I dipped into the super dark brown shade and I basically intensified my crease and my outer corner with that. Then I applied a glitter glue and I consequentially went into this shade over here, which is the stunning like bronzy pink brown, and I applied that all over my lid. And then in my inner corner I went into this beautiful sort of beige gold shade. Then, as very usual lately, I didn't really feel like winging a liner, so I took a one of my Kiko eyeshadow sticks. This one is in the shade 37, and I don't think I've ever shown this one to you before. It is an absolutely stunning sort of like a burgundy red. Look how beautiful that is. So I applied that a bit like a thin line that goes a little bit into like the tiniest sort of wing towards my outer corner, and because that shade wasn't really contrasting too much with the rest, and I really didn't want it to contrast, but I just wanted to use it as a base for this beautiful shade over here, which is my favorite shade in the palette. It's like a burgundy with a bit of a bronzy coppery duochrome. It is absolutely stunning. So I applied that with a brush like this, like a little pointy, I don't know, like a very tiny pencil sort of brush. So I stamped the shadow over top of that Kiko eyeshadow stick. Then on my lower lash line I did something super easy. I just blended out a little bit this burnt orange shade underneath my lower lash line, and then in my waterline I applied another Kiko eyeshadow stick. This one is in the shade 45 and it is a beautiful like coral with a gold sparkle to it. It looks like this. It's one of their new shades. And on my lips I went for a red lipstick, and this is the shade Zealot from Urban Decay. It is a beautiful red with gold sparkles to it. Alright you guys, we are back at the halo eye attempts. I can't say I'm very satisfied with how this turned out. I think I've done a better job doing halo eye before. But that being said, I think I've also done much worse. So I think as far as halo eye look goes, today I did a pretty average job at it. It's not my best work, let me put it that way. But let me tell you what I did and where I think I went a little bit wrong. So I started off the look with this burnt orange shade. I put that through my crease with a very fluffy brush. Then I grabbed a small pencil brush and I intensified my outer and inner corners again with this shade. And I think this is where I might have gone wrong, because maybe if I had added a little bit more of that dark brown shade just in the outer corner to intensify and pull out the shade a little bit more, I might have succeeded in giving it a bit more definition. And I don't know, I have a feeling that this is where things might have turned out a little bit better. I left most of my lid space free because I wanted to apply two different metallic shades over top of the glitter glue that I applied underneath that. So I went in consequentially with this beautiful rose gold type of shade, and then I applied this gold shade right in the smack middle of my eye, just to intensify even more the light in the center. Then in the inner corners of my eye I applied this beautiful duochrome green shade, and on the lower lash line I went in first with this Kiko eyeshadow stick in the number 11, which is basically the same shade as this beautiful teal sort of blue, the dark teal sort of blue. And I applied the stick eyeshadow as a base for this shade in my waterline, a little bit on my lower lash line, just so the shade has something to stick to. Just because I can't help myself, I did add a little bit of glitter. There's always place for distortion in my looks, so I'm wearing also the heavy metal glitter liner in Distortion from Urban Decay right in the inner corners of my eye here. For lipstick today I chose one of my favorite H&M lipsticks, not one of my favorite H&M lipsticks, and that is the shade Redwood. It is a beautiful warm terracotta browny orange type of shade. If you haven't tried the H&M cream lipstick formula, you definitely should. These lipsticks smell absolutely divine, and I've heard people talk about these lipsticks, but I've never actually heard anyone talk about this shade in particular, the shade Redwood. So if you have an H&M around you, you can at least go and swatch it and think of me when you do that, because I think you're going to like this shade. So guys, as you can see, we have temporarily changed location only for today because Grandma and my son fell asleep in our bedroom and I didn't want to disturb them. I initially was going to incorporate the blue shade over here in this look, but as you can see there's absolutely no blue in this look because I actually really enjoyed how this was turning out, just with the warm tones paired with the pop of green. So as usual I started off with this pumpkin orange shade because as far as the mattes are concerned you are only given these choices here, and there's really not much more than you can do. If you want to start off your crease, then go in with this pumpkin orange shade. So I pretty much always start my looks with that shade. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is with this palette for me. Then I deepened the outer corner with the dark brown shade. I applied glitter glue over my lid and inner corner, and then I went in with this beautiful gold shade over my lid, and in the inner corner I applied the absolutely gorgeous light green shade. Then on my lower lash line I initially wanted to apply the blue, but then I decided which lipstick I was going to wear, and that changed everything because I decided to go in with the burgundy red instead. As a base for that, by the way, I used another one of my Kiko long-lasting eyeshadow sticks. This one is in the number 37 and it is a gorgeous burgundy reddish brown. On my lower lash line, like I said, I first started off with the burgundy matte shade, and then in my waterline I applied a little bit of this gorgeous bronze reddish duochrome, which you're going to see featured in a look in one of my next looks. I promise you that, because it is my favorite shade in this palette. And like I said, the decision for the lower lash line was slightly based on the lipstick choice for the day, and my lipstick choice for the day is the shade Mosh Pit from Urban Decay. A little bit of story time with this lip. This is one of the first lipsticks that I ever bought from the Vice lipstick line from Urban Decay when it was launched in 2016, and I remember I bought it, I wore it a couple of times. I didn't like how it wore on me because it would like settle into my fine lines and it would start looking patchy throughout the day, because I test my lipsticks throughout the day. If they survive me going to work and not looking horrible at the end of the day, I love them. If they are difficult to maintain, I tend to not reach for them anymore. So this is what happened to Mosh Pit. I wore it a couple of times and I didn't find it easy to wear throughout the day. I find it I found it too much maintenance for a work day, so I kind of never reached for it, and a couple of weeks ago I was thinking about actually decluttering it, but then I thought, let me try it again before I declutter it, because now I also use my MAC lip primer, I don't know how it's called, it's from the Prep and Prime line. It's their lip primer basically, and I use that now on a regular basis regardless of how good the lipstick is, because even with my good lipsticks I feel like it makes my good lipsticks even better. So I decided to give this lipstick another chance with the lip primer, and oh my god, I love it so much. First of all, it has the most gorgeous like deep wine red burgundy sort of shade to it, and I don't really have another lipstick like this in my collection. And second of all, the lip primer made a huge difference, because now I can comfortably wear this lipstick throughout the day and not worry about it being too high maintenance. Alright you guys, today's look is a prime example of something that I do find frustrating with this palette, so I'm going to get into it a little bit now, and maybe I'll save like the whole spiel for the review part of this video, which is going to be in the end after I've shown you all the 5 looks. But basically, I wanted to put this blue shade on my lid because it is one of my favorite shades in this palette. However, as you can also, I think, see very clearly from the way my eyes turned today, the matte shades don't offer you much variety, so you're only getting these 3 warm shades here, and let's be honest, none of them really goes very well with this blue. So you can make it work, of course, contrasting colors do look very beautiful together, but when you put a super matte eyeshadow like this with a foiled, almost creamy formula like this blue shade here, it is extremely difficult to blend them together, and it's very hard to make them flow into each other seamlessly. It always does look a little bit like you have a very harsh line, which I do feel like I have going on today. But because I want to stick to this palette and I want to show you all the different possibilities, I wanted to not dip into another eyeshadow palette in order to show you the blue eyeshadow. Something else that you can do with this blue eyeshadow, if you have this palette and you're finding it difficult to incorporate it into your looks, is definitely wing it as a liner, put it on your lower lash line as an accent. That aside, let's talk very quickly about what I actually did to achieve this look. So I went into this shade here on a very fluffy blending brush because I wanted to put it a little bit through my crease, like a transition shade, and then blend it out lightly with this orange. As you can see, I still have a very intense crease going up all the way until here, because these shades are just too dark to be used properly as transition colors. That's just the way it is. Then I packed this shade here, the dark brown, again in my outer corner with a smaller fluffy brush, like smaller pencil type of brush. Then I applied glitter glue and I used my finger to apply the blue shade all over my lid. Then I went back into the brown shade a couple of times just to like do a couple of those blending motions between the foiled shade and the matte shades, just so it doesn't look super unblended and super like stark of a line. It still doesn't look perfect, but that's the best I can do. Then in my inner corners I went into this beautiful rose gold here because I feel like blue and orange look so beautiful together, and because of the orange tones of this eyeshadow I think it makes a good contrast. Then on my waterline I applied one of my Kiko eyeshadow sticks. This one is in the number 28, which is basically like a light, almost concealer-like color, which I use for either brightening the waterline, which I did today, or to use as a base for like cut crease type looks. So that's what I did today. I used this as a base for the gold shade over here, which I applied in my waterline because I felt the upper part of my lid was quite dark, so I wanted something to brighten the look a little bit. Then on my lower lash line, super low-key, I just applied the orange eyeshadow, and that's pretty much all. Oh no, wait, I'm lying. I last minute decided to add a little glitter liner detail. So, okay, camera, focus. Okay, I hope my camera is focused and you can see that I have a little bit of like a glitter liner right here above my crease on both eyes. I felt like that might help a little bit with the very harsh separation between the brown and the blue. That's pretty much all that's going on my eyes. On my lips I'm wearing my Urban Decay Vice lipstick in the shade Epigram. This is a limited edition lipstick that was part of the Basquiat collection from Urban Decay a couple of years ago. It is a favorite color of mine and I'm going to be really sad when it's finished because it's a beautiful terracotta orangey toned brown. I really like this lipstick. Alright you guys, in conclusion we are doing the last Project 5 Wears look with the Saharan 2 palette, featuring my absolute favorite shade in this palette, which is this gorgeous shade over here, which is called Nomad. It has a beautiful, almost creamy texture and the most gorgeous burgundy pink tones to it, with a very intense bronze gold duochrome. I don't know whether that's coming across on camera. I absolutely love this shade. It is without a doubt my favorite shade in this palette, and I could not finish off this Project 5 Wears without doing a look with it for you. As usual, I started off the look with this pumpkiny orange shade, which I used as my transition color. I applied that in my crease and a bit above my crease. Then in the outer part of my eye and in the deep crease I applied this beautiful matte shade here, which has which is a very intense burgundy with sort of pink undertones to it. This shade can be a little bit patchy sometimes for me, and I can't really put my finger on when exactly it looks patchy and when it looks perfect, but I do feel like when I use a transition shade which has a little bit more of white pigment to it, then it tends to perform a little bit more patchy. Let me know if you've had weird experiences with this shade too. Anyway, then I applied glitter glue and I applied the beautiful Nomad shade all over my lid. In my inner corner I applied a combination of the gold shade and the green shade, just because I wanted to not really have very intense green tones to my inner corners, but I did want to have like a little bit of green over there to match some of the green details that I have going on my dress today. On my lower lash line I kept it very easy and I just applied the beautiful pumpkin orange shade and I blended it out. In my waterline I am wearing the Colourpop cream gel liner in the shade Prance, which is a very beautiful intense sun yellow color. I've talked about these before. They're super nice quality because they're very pigmented and they stay in your waterline for ages compared to other colorful pencil liners that I have. Then to intensify a little bit the yellow details going on in the look, I applied the NYX Vivid Brights liner in the shade Vivid Halo, which is this beautiful pastel yellow shade, as like a little underwing detail to my look, and I think it plays off really nicely with the rest of the makeup as well as my clothing today. I definitely think this is my favorite look that I did with this palette for this Project 5 Wears. Let me know if you agree. For my lips I kept it super easy because I figured out that the eyes are already so intense that I didn't want to take away too much spotlight from the eyes, so I kept it simple, but at the same time I wanted to apply something with like more burgundy tones to it. So what I did is I applied my Pat McGrath Fetish Lip Balm in the shade Dark Devotion. Dark Devotion has well, it looks much deeper in the packaging than it actually applies on the lips. It applies as a very sheer, like sort of burgundy pinkish color, which I think, while not taking away from the look, complements it really nicely because it sort of has like the same burgundy tones as the matte shade that I have through my crease, but in a much lighter, much less conspicuous color. I hope that made some sense to you. So with this we're concluding the 5 looks, and I wanted to throw in a couple of final thoughts that I have about this palette. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I have talked about this palette on so many other occasions. Today this is my favorite eyeshadow palette from Juvia's Place because there is something absolutely magical about the metallic foiled shades going on in here. Let me just quickly touch upon the color story of this palette. I've mentioned it on several occasions that in my opinion the first Juvia's Place eyeshadow palette to have a true color story was the Tribe palette, and everything else was kind of a hot mess in terms of the combination of colors. So while I've always really enjoyed the quality of her eyeshadows, I haven't always been the hugest fan of her color stories. And to address the color story of this eyeshadow really quickly, to me this is a very interesting take on a warm eyeshadow palette with a pop of blue and a pop of green. I thought about it and actually don't have very strong feelings for the matte eyeshadows in this palette. They're not my favorite thing about it. I can leave them or take them. They work with the warm eyeshadows in this palette really, really well. although they're a little bit deeper for someone with my skin tone. I understand that this palette is definitely not made for someone with my skin tone, and it's made for people of color, people with a deeper skin. So while for me a lot of these shades are very dark and definitely do not work as transition shades, they will definitely work as transition shades on someone with deeper skin. So I totally get that, and I don't hold it against the palette that there is no transition shade for my personal skin tone. Anyway, so like I said, mattes, take it or leave it, I don't really care, they're fine, they're nothing to write home about. However, the metallic shades in here, especially these three and this one here, oh dear lord, there's something absolutely magical about them. I don't know if she sprinkled unicorn tears or fairy dust powder in them, but there is something about these eyeshadows. They are so creamy, so smooth, they almost feel like a cream eyeshadow without really being a cream eyeshadow. They're super vibrant, absolutely stunning. I cannot say enough good things about the foiled eyeshadows in this palette, and I hope that all of you that own this palette can vouch for the eyeshadows having this quality. I think the mattes work really well with like the more neutral warm tones in this shadow palette, even with the light green here. The only shade that kind of stands out as it doesn't really quite work well with the matte eyeshadows in this palette is the vibrant blue here, because I think the vibrant blue was maybe meant to be a little accent and not really something that you put the spotlight on. However, it is so gorgeous that it is difficult not to put the spotlight on it. So what I normally do with this eyeshadow palette, if I want to use the blue, is either I use it as an accent, or if I want to put the blue on my lid, I do use other eyeshadow palettes with it, because I find it very difficult to combine this shade with the three mattes that I'm given in this palette. Perhaps you have a better experience with that, but I have always quite struggled with that. So that is the only shortcoming that I can think of with this palette. I hope you guys enjoyed this Project 5 Wears video with the Saharan 2 palette from Juvia's Place. Please don't forget to head over to Melissa's channel and check out the looks that she created with it. If you enjoy our content, consider subscribing to both of our channels if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!